Hi everyone, welcome back to JPWHUTV. Thank you very much for watching. Unfortunately, this podcast isn't going to go to exactly to plan because the main guest that was supposed to come on has completely forgot about it. So he's going to come on at another point. But the purpose of today is we are talking about Newcastle United in terms of everything that's been going on with them over the last year, basically. Guys, before we go into that itself, I just want to mention a quick shout out to the sponsor of the channel, 3retro.com. Please click the link in the description below that will take you directly through to the West Ham section of their website. And so where you can purchase retro kits from the 60s all the way through to the early 2000s, including the 76 home kit and the 1980 FA Cup final kit that inspired this coming season shirts. It's weird to think that we're literally, where are we, 3 weeks away from the start of the season. Really can't wait for that. There's also Umbro and Admiral track jackets, polo shirts, sweatshirts and t-shirts, so go check those out. Any purchases that you make through the link, guys, will go to Isla's Fight for the first 20 purchases. The website for JPWHUTV is now up and running. It's jpwhutv.co.uk. If anybody wants to send me any blogs that they wish to do, then by all means email me at contact@jpwhutv.co.uk. But having said that, though, we've got a very good guest on. As you'll know from when the Lawless was on from our last, when he came on a few weeks ago, we've mentioned that we'd talk about Newcastle at another time. And I'm very happy to say that Dan has been able to join me for it. Dan, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. It's a shame the Newcastle geezer couldn't come on. It feels weird talking about Newcastle, about the Newcastle fan now. It's two West Ham fans talking about Newcastle.
But also it times in quite nicely with the pre-season that we had against them yesterday, which is why I wanted to get Kev's point of view on it. But we'll do that at another point. So yeah, let's go completely arse about it in that case, mate. Let's talk about yesterday's display. What were your thoughts on it?
Do you know what? It was disappointing. I mean, look, it's a pre-season, but the weird thing is, is they've had less preparation time, so much turmoil. They've only been with their manager for like a few days, compared to what we've had now. But they just looked like the hungrier team, the more energetic team, especially in the first half. And even though we say it's pre-season, especially in that first half, I saw what I saw a lot of times last season, such as Brighton away. When we are so susceptible to the press, when teams press us, we completely panic and we crumble. They don't give us any space, yet we give the other team, when we don't have the ball, we give them tons of space. But when we have the ball, these teams close us down quickly. And I saw that a lot during the season, and now I'm seeing it in pre-season. So I don't know if it's a case of, oh, it's just pre-season, these things get ironed out, or we're generally going to play like that. I'm very worried if we do start to repeat that during the season, then I'll start to question Pellegrini if I see that during the Premier League.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. It was one of my housemates got back yesterday from being away for a few weeks, and he looked at the screen and said, "Is this pre-season?" It kind of looked like he had a thought in his head that he'd been away for a lot longer than he thought he'd been. But yeah, it was awful from one point of view. I mean, we played better in the second half, but I just kind of I don't know what it is. I mean, you're right. It's pre-season, but those problems should be ironed out. I always say that pre-season is more about the fitness levels than anybody else. But at the same point, I always like to try and watch pre-seasons when we've got new players, and it's just basically the squad from last season that was out there. It's credit to Newcastle, 100%. They played fantastically well. It seems that Steve Bruce has actually tinkered with the side and gone back to the Rafa Benitez 3-5-2 way of playing, and it really helped them a hell of a lot. I mean, their standout player by a country mile was Mewtwo. Questions around the goal, mate? Do you reckon that was offside?
Yeah, it looked fractionally offside, just a margin that maybe if there was VAR, it would have caught that out. But it's a difficult one for the linesman. As much as I've had a lot to say about linesmen last season, that one I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. But if we had VAR, that's probably one that would be sorted. But they've got the goal. That's made a difference. But also, I forgot to mention, we didn't have one shot on target that whole game.
Well, we did. There was one, I think, which
What? Which one was that?
was towards the end of the second half, but it was easily saved just when we were on the dominance. But yeah, again,
Oh,
mate, it's just the same thing. It's the typical West Ham
reminds me of
Newcastle
Wolves
thing.
away. Yeah, it was just. I mean, hopefully Fornals and Haller, once they come in, they're going to be responsible for creating more chances and actually having a go a bit more. But Haller is the sort of player that I think he's a bit like Chicharito. I don't think he's ever scored outside the box. So this is a situation then of how we get it to him in the box and create enough space for him to where he can get a shot off. Because every time we try and seem to walk it into the back of the net, we get closed down. So for me, what we should have done is probably had more of a go from outside the box rather than try and walk it into the back of the net as we did. But on a positive, Jack Wilshere made a big difference when he came on. He really did.
Definitely. I mean, we definitely were. That's when we started being on the ascendancy, and where the Newcastle supporters reckon they were starting to playing worse. But at the same point, that's the funny thing about two perspectives is when one team is dominating the other, you think they're having a bad, you think your team's having a good game and the other opposition's being worse. But in actual fact, it's it's always been hard for me to just come to that conclusion because we had some good spells. Antonio was looking good. I was a little bit worried when Zabaleta went down quickly, and obviously Wilshere was down for a couple of minutes, but was able to run back on relatively soon. But mate, this may be a bit controversial now, but what are your thoughts on Ogbonna so far in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't covered himself in glory at all, Ogbonna. I think he was just quite poor there. It's one-on-ones, he just gets done every time. Anytime he's one-on-one with a player, he just gets done. Like, and when you see on the other end, I think it was Rice. Rice was one-on-one with a player, and the player did not beat Rice. He didn't beat him. He ended up going out for a throw. But with Ogbonna, he just gets turned so easily. So it's a big problem. I mean, and we know that we have seen Ogbonna play well. We have seen that he can do it. I don't know what it is with him. He just goes into these spells of just being crap. And at the moment, he's quite crap. But Declan Rice, obviously, his original position is a centre back. He played there yesterday. I think it moved there after Reed came off. And
that's right. Yeah, in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was brilliant there. Some people think he's eventually going to be moved back as a centre-back and his time at defensive midfield will improve him. I don't know. I think he likes to play. I think he's enjoying defensive midfield. But it shows that if we need it, he can play there, which is why I want to prioritise signing a defensive midfielder over a centre-back. Because we've got Balbuena, we've got Diop, you look as your first choice. Then you've got Reed. Then you got Ogbonna, which I know everyone's got question marks over him, but as options. And then Declan Rice, who can play this. If we get a defensive midfielder in as to maybe play alongside or as cover for Rice, if the centre back gets injured, just put Rice in instead of putting Ogbonna in. Rice and Diop or Rice and Balbuena is something I'd prefer to do than buy a centre back and not have a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I mean, we touched on this briefly on Twitter yesterday. Personally, we need to get rid of Sanchez and get into defensive midfielders because the guy is just useless, to say the least. Without getting into too many expletives, the guy is absolutely... Well, I'll say what I said yesterday. Basically, the guy's wank. He really is. I mean, I tried to defend him last season because he had a really, really tough time. He was that he's always going to be remembered for that poor pass that led to Wolves beating us in the dying minutes of the home game at the start of the season. Yes, he got his injury, and then he started coming back towards the end of the season. And to be honest, wasn't playing brilliantly, but he wasn't playing bad either at the same point. So I've really tried to.
Well, before that Wolves mistake, and this is what people forget. A lot of people forget this. Is people were actually saying about, and myself were saying that he was all right. He was playing pretty well. Up until that, I mean, he weren't like blowing us out of the water and we're talking about how amazing he was, but he was doing a decent job up until that Wolves mistake. And that mistake obviously ended up costing us the game. But I got massively misunderstood after the City game on Twitter, because I said, you know, how it's harsh to really judge him on this game after he's basically missed the whole season. But then I said at the end, we do need to get a new defensive midfielder in, and basically saying he's not good enough. So all I was saying is that's not really the game to judge him on. Really, a pre-season friendly against Man City after he's been out here. But I said when we signed him, what were we doing? But then we got the old, every time I criticize a site, it's give him a chance, like Hugo, when we signed Hugo and I wasn't happy with that. Give him a chance. Sometimes you just look, you just know the player's not going to be good enough. But yeah, I agree. We need to ship it. It might be hard though. It seems to be like difficult to find a team that would pay the wages that we're paying him. So we might have to pay him off to get rid of him or something.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that, mate. That's the problem we're having with Hugo at the moment. Because he wants to stay on his Premier League wages when he's being approached by Championship clubs. There are stories, you probably read it as well, that once the squad comes back, Hugo and who was the other geezer? Who's the defensive midfielder we're trying to get rid of? His link was Sassuolo. Obiang, sorry. Yes, yeah. There's stories that apparently, even X is confirmed that there's a very good chance that once the squad comes back, those two are going to be out of the door very, very quickly. Dan, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get on to the main crux of this conversation is your post from yesterday, which I commented on about the so-called net spend that's available.
Yeah.
Because obviously. Knees Up Mother Brown put a little pie chart up the other day in terms of how much income we've got, expenditure, and money available. I agree with you, mate. I don't really see how we can get 35 million coming in for those players that we've sold, and obviously releasing releasing the players we have as well, which frees up the wages as well, and then spend the 65 million. Yeah. The expenditure is only what we're making in. Surely there's something wrong in the background here in terms of the fact that yes, there's an argument that the money that we spent on Fornals was made up by selling an Arnautovic, but that was before we had that was well after. Sorry, it was rumored that we were going to have that 25 to 30 million pound to spend.
Yeah, and then
the books don't balance.
Well, yeah, and then Claret and Hugh were ones that were raising up when it was originally 25, then it went to 30, then it went to 35. In the end, the budget before we'd even been linked with a player. Now, whatever it is, say it's 30 or whatever, right? So TV finish wise, we've brought in around 126 million, right, from our TV finish. Then you've got merchant. Like people think, oh, but does that go towards the running of the club and all these other things? Well, that's not the only money we're bringing in. Then you've got sponsors. So you've got your Betway, your what's it? What is this?
Bassett and Gold.
Bassett and Gold. Yeah, Bassett and Gold. All the other stuff, all the other little sponsors. We've got the watch company, for one. I forget their name. London Watches or something.
Yeah, Royal London
Watches, all these other little sponsors that we have in and around the stadium or on the websites and stuff like that, right? So you've got that. You've got merchandise, all the shirts, the flipping scarves, the hats, the PlayStation 4 stickers that people buy, right?
The key rings, the mugs, etc., etc.
Yeah, all the bits of merchandise. So there's all these things, and of course tickets and season tickets. Season ticket prices have been put up this season. So if you count factor in all of that, it's not like we've got 130 million every year just to run the club. We have all of this money that comes in and around the club. So I'm not saying that we should be spending 130 million, but come on, it should be more than 30 million. Let's talk about paying off the debt. The debt keeps coming up. Now, I was reading somewhere that something like we was going to pay back some of the debt to the club, but then the board, but then they've sort of deferred it till next year. So what the payment we was going to make this year is now we're going to make next year. So towards the transfer window. I mean, that debt to me is still super dodgy, super dodgy. When they took over, we was in, I think it was like just over 100 million in debt. It was around that 100 million and something figure.
It's about 120, I think, if I remember correctly.
I think about 120, right? So they came out and said, we will not be in debt by the time we move into that stadium, right? The way they've got around that is they went and bought the debt. So technically they were right. We were debt free, but the club are in debt to the board. So now you think, all the time that they've had us, right? This 120 million debt. I remember when Gold done an interview with ex-employee on his radio show. I think that's when it came up, and he was like, "Yeah, we're still in like 80 million pound debt or something like that." He came out, and I was like gobsmacked because I'm like, "How can we still be in all this debt?" And they're charging us interest on this debt, so it's in their best interest to keep this debt going on, because the longer it goes on, the more interest payments they're making out of us. I mean, this could all be me going wacky conspiracy theorist, right? But I don't see how that debt, I think that was that was just after the Burnley game or around the Burnley time, season before last. So how are we in that much debt still after they've had us for so long and they're paying it off? I don't understand it. It's so dodgy.
Yeah, I mean, I did a roundup of the finances just around about December time. I think it was January time, and it didn't make sense then. I mean, you make quite a couple of good, interesting points there, Dan, because at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. The debt was bought 100% off. So we, as a club, we were debt free, yet it's still mentioned as club debt because it is. It's it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. The worrying thing for me is just the fact that it's kind of like what we talked about with the change. I think it was you and I talked about the change of the rules to financial fair play. David Sullivan up until recently was hiding behind that because they say we can't do it because of these rules. Now those rules have been not exactly expunged, but they're not exactly being completely removed either. And as a result of that, then now it seems to be that the club and through Claret & Hugh, or more specifically Sean Whetstone, by the looks of it, is they're hiding behind club debt. Now, the interesting thing is that when you're absolutely right, they bought, as you said, they bought the debt, which was going to be over a 5-year period, if I remember correctly, which was going to be which, funnily enough, will run out at the time when they don't need to give any money to the LLDC if they sell the stadium.
Yeah, I think it's 2 more seasons, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's everything seems to be gelling nicely from one point of view in terms of the fact that in the 5-year time when the debt's paid off, they'll be able to get an absolutely huge windfall if the stadium is sold at that point, which I'm guessing was the plan from 7 or 8 years ago. But at the same point, it's going to affect us in a lot of the same ways that it's affecting the club that we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah.
Because at the end,
before we get on to Newcastle, I want to get your viewpoint on this tweet. Right? I want to see if you can get your head around this. Right, this is what Mr. Whetstone tweeted out. Right, seems another sort of bit of club PR spin. If Obiang is sold for 7 million, then net spend will be around 25.5 million this summer. But not all transfers are paid or received over the same time period. Average is 3 years. In the case of Haller, his fee is due over 18 months, making him more like an 81 million pound in cash terms over the next year and a half.
Right, before I give my answer on it, can you read out Gio's response to that? Because that cracked me up.
Oh, come on, Sean, leave it out. You're doing your best, but it's a bit unnecessary. Pass me your shovel, mate. Yeah.
I loved it. It really creased me up, but he's absolutely right. He is digging himself a hole big time. But for me, I can't really see where that logic is coming from.
It all sounds a bit like just moving the numbers around, and you're playing that game where you have the ball under free cut, but which one is it? And you're just moving things around and changing the goalposts. Like, where does this 81 million pound figures come from? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's just me or it's the way he's worded it on Twitter, but I can't quite get my head around. It's like an 81 million in cash terms. Yeah, I don't know quite what he's saying there. If the fact of it affects the budget a bit more because of how soon we're paying it, and we're paying others slower. But it's it's all bollocks, if you ask me.
It is. It is. It are 100% load of bullshit. Because at the end of the day, like we touched on before, it's mostly they want to try and cover up as much debt that the club is actually in, and therefore try and, for lack, not I can't say penny pinch is the wrong word to say, but it's not that far off it. Because there's something going. There's always something with these two owners. Bubbling under the surface. There's always something going on in the background. As good as that can be, it's really been to the club's detriment at the same point, because the money, it's basically what accountants call creative accounting. It's literally just making stuff up to have a look at the balance sheet to try and make it look a bit more clearer and cleaner than it actually is. And we'll find out in a few years' time, I reckon, exactly what the status of the club's finances really will be. I mean, I look at the financial accounts every year that they're published, and I said back in January that this isn't making sense. So for this to come out now is really, really bad. I mean, I'm no accountant in any shape or form, but at the end of the day, I can read and I can add, and there's just really something not right with this, because even if we had that 30 million at the start of the season, right? The problem is that when we release players and therefore there's more funds available, it's only funds available towards the end of the season, because we're saving on wages. That money's not appearing from anywhere. We're not getting it coming in. This is, I think this might be a little bit of where Sean's trying to get the message across. Is when we're saving wages, it just means we're saving wages. There's no new funds coming in. It just means that we're going to have, like, for example, Carroll's and Carroll. This is Carroll's and Marko Nautovic's wages, an example. That just means we're saving 210 grand a week.
But if you know that money, I know it's what you're saying, and it's not like just because we're saving it now, it's not mean the total sum of a year's worth of 200 of whatever grand a week isn't going straight in our bank account. But if you know that money is coming in or is going to be freed up, sure, you can budget for it. Like, you can budget for what you know is coming in. So right, okay, so I've got this pool of money. I can only spend this much. I don't want to leave myself short here or whatever. But I know this money's coming in. Even flipping most owners would do. What most owners would do is go, right, okay, so I know we're going to free up however million that's going to be in our account at the end of the year. I'm going to put in that money now and then take that back at the end of the year or whatever. Like, it's just one of them things that when you're trying to budget, you budget for what's coming in at, say, at the end of the month. Like, for me, I'm a freelancer, right? So when I'm budgeting myself and I know, right, I can spend this now because I know in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, that's going to come in. So I budget between what's coming in, if that makes sense. So yeah, there is that with the wages. But when it was sort of saying that we're done and we can't even, and this is what came out as well, like, we're not even getting any free players in or loans, like, we're done. Or that was I was like, what? Like, I'm not expecting us to go out and sign another 25, another 30 million pound player. But the fact of the matter is, we are short in quality when it comes to defensive midfield and when it comes to fullbacks. They're areas, especially left back, they're areas that we need to improve on. Now, defensive midfield, we've been trying to sign one since Slav's time when we was trying to get Cavallo in. We needed us, and we missed out on him, and we never addressed that. We never really addressed it. So how we can just then go and leave ourselves short, no matter what business we've done last season. People say we spent like this or nearly 100 million last season. Like, we should just that's fine. We don't need to do anything after that. We can just spend little, season after season. If we want to compete with the likes of Everton, Leicester, flipping Wolverhampton, we need to make sure we are strong in areas, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. And, weakest link is definitely in fullbacks. We've got, especially, you look at right back as well. You've got Fredericks is a massive injury concern to me. Massive injury concern. Yarmolenko on a wing is a massive injury concern. Wilshere is a massive injury concern. They're very high risk in terms of high chance that they could get injured. So we have to factor that in to the squad. And
Yeah,
Creswell was not. I know it's pre-season, but Creswell isn't looking too sharp as well. If we're going to judge Ogbonna and we're going to judge Carlos Sanchez in pre-season, you got to judge Creswell as well when he's not looking great.
100%, mate. I said to a mate of mine while we were watching it, was just the fact that he's looking dodgy. He really is looking dodgy in comparison to how well Ben Johnson was playing before with the squad without out to China. But again, only 1 or 2 games, so it's harsh to do a full roundup. When
actually it was Ben Johnson. When I was saying Declan Rice didn't get beaten, it went out for a throw. Actually, it was Ben Johnson. I forget because I remember being impressed by him. Actually,
yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson's had 2 very good games for us. The City game where he made his debut, and the Utrecht, or however you pronounce it. But he was looking good. But going back to what you're saying earlier, Dan, you're absolutely right, 100%. Budgeting is the whole point. Yeah, it's just the fact that you're absolutely right, because you're so right. Okay, if we're saving 210 grand a week, by the end of the season we'll be able to do this and blah blah blah, and that's what the plan is. That's what I think with the whole thing with Arnautovic that happened at the start of the month, has thrown a lot of their plans out of the window for different things, because we're budgeting for different things. But at the same point, because that happened, we've got more money to save and invest in other areas once the TV deal breakdown comes through, etc., etc., etc. I mean, the funny thing is, talking of which, I mean, one of these days we will get onto the main purpose of this video. But one of these, did you see the other day that we've signed a new sponsorship deal with basically what appears to be an Iron Brew knockoff company?
Oh, really? A knockoff of Iron Brew? No, I didn't see that. I actually missed that.
It's it's basically we've had a new agreement, sponsorship deal, I should say, with a energy drink company. From what I've seen, and so there's that money coming into it as well, which would be interesting to see how much that deal was worth. Because at the end of the day, it's all well and good that we've an Arnautovic has gone to China for an undisclosed fee. We've Perez went out for an undisclosed fee. When the accounts are published, they have to disclose how much they were sold for. So that'd be very, very. It won't be individuals. They will just say that net sales are X and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it'd be very, very interesting to come on to that.
This is the thing as well. When you look at the likes of Arnautovic and Byram in particular, who were both sold for less than we should have sold them for, in my opinion. But then the dialogue was, we want to get rid of them, so we can bring in new players, get rid of them, so we can get in new players, and this, that, and the other, right? Surely we could have then, if we were just going to bring in 2 outfield players, I don't really care. Well, the goalkeepers were both frees, weren't they?
Yes, they were. Yeah,
they were both free. So if we were just going to buy just 2 players, right? Surely then we could have taken our time a bit more and dug our heels in a bit more and try and got a bit more money for Arnautovic, which we definitely could have got more money, and Byram, who I know Byram's got not the greatest injury record, but with the market for English players, Premier League players today, you look at that. Harry, I'm not comparing to Harry Maguire, but £80 million. So if you compare that, we couldn't get at least we couldn't even get to the £1 million mark for Sam Byram, and so it was always the talk of, we just wanted him off the wages. We've got over 200 grand gap now spare on the wages. If we're not bringing in anything else, what's the point? What is the point of getting 750 grand for flipping Byram? I don't understand that sale. That is a bizarre one, because we might as well have hung on to him. Look, he's another right back. Hung on to him for a little bit longer and then seen if anyone comes in for him, wants to pay a bit more money for him. Or so, sure, the championship team might have paid a bloody more than 750 grand. But my point is, if we're set, why are we selling players on the cheap if there is no need to get we aren't getting any new players and we're not rushing, just try and get them off the wage book so we can bring someone else in? That's a weird one for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%, mate. It's just it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does from one point of view, because at the end of the day, Byram's contract's up this time next year, so he would have gone on a free. So they were trying to get some money out of it from that point of view. Yeah. Yes, looking at the bigger picture, I agree.
750 grand is a pathetic sum of money. even for a player that's on 1 year left on his deal, for a young English right back with Premier League experience. I mean, I know I'm not trying to paint him up to be, but I mean, when he's injury free, he's a quality player. He's a quality player. Look at if we signed Wilshere from Arsenal, right? What they would have been demanding if he wasn't free. They'd have been looking for like 40 million, even though he's got a serious injury doubt. Bloody Andy Carroll with his injury record, even at flipping Liverpool, we paid like nearly 20 million for him. So injuries, yes, should be factored, but it shouldn't be like the major factor where it cuts you down to 700. Still, Battle couldn't even get 1 million for him. So yeah, that one's just a bit weird for me. But yeah, we shouldn't leave ourselves short next season. So that is the worry for me, is that we are going to be short, and defensively we're going to be the same as last season, because we had a lot of issues defensively last season. We just haven't improved that at all. Like, really, when you look at it, right, Haller, we've brought in Haller, right, who scored 20 goals last season. So say he scores 20 goals this season, right? What did DeMarco score? 11?
Yeah.
So all we would have done is scored 9 more goals, right? So if you added 9 more goals, how much of a difference would that really have made, this extra 9 goals? But we're still leaking the same amount of goals. Like, so this idea that Haller can push us to 6th, and I can't see him, as much as he looks to be a brilliant signing, and I think he'll do really well, but scoring 20 goals in his first season in the Premier League, I can't see it. I can't see that happening. That's very difficult. We haven't had a player who scored 20 goals in the Premier League since flipping, was it Hartson?
Yeah, pretty much. For me personally, Dan, I will be very surprised if he gets decent double digits next season. The only reason being is because, like you're saying, you know, it's his first season in the Premier League. We have no idea how he's going to be able to cope with it. Everybody was saying the same thing about Anderson this time last year. You know, for his reputation of about being a very, very good player, albeit very inconsistent. But he scored quite a few goals the last season before we bought him. He's got a very, very good right foot, which we're still seeing. But me and a mate were talking about this last week. Whatever they do over in completely different leagues, personally, it's best to half that, and that should be his target for this season.
Yeah.
If he gets 10, 11, I'll be very, very impressed. Very, very impressed. Now, the reason I'm quite glad you brought him up a couple of times, because apparently the way you actually pronounce it is completely different.
Was
it Alier? Alier.
I need to try and remember that, because I keep getting the comments, but it's just so. Oh, why can't names just sound how they bloody read?
If he was German, yes, we call him Haller, definitely. But is that Hallier or something like that? But all joking aside for a minute, though, I am really looking forward to seeing what he's capable of. More specifically, for his interview that he did when he actually signed, saying that he will treat the club with respect. He'll always give 100% and all that sort of stuff. Now, maybe it was a PR scheme, marketing scheme to have a bit of a subtle dig at Arnautovic, possibly. That's a lot of people have been saying that recently. But for me, I can't wait to get. I just want to have a decent striker up top at the end.
Yeah.
We still I don't know if you saw my tweet about on the link down for from Sean's tweet yesterday, but I tweeted this morning. I do not believe for 1 second about Pellegrini being happy with the 4 signings he's brought in. I don't believe that in any shape or form. Now, to the uneducated eye, which is basically what we are from that point of view, we can see where the gaps are. We can see where we need to reinforce and improve. So if we can see it, there is no way in hell Pellegrini is going to David Sullivan and saying, "That's it, no more." There's no way.
It completely stinks of what we've seen before. It's when the board don't want to give out any more money, they always push it out. Yeah, manager's happy, so they feed it out to accounts, right? Yep, Pellegrini is happy. Then these accounts report, yeah, Pellegrini's happy. So you've got, that's what we're told. But who are you being told by? You're being told by the club. the people that run the club. Pellegrini isn't going to Sean and going, yeah, Sean, I'm really happy with what I've got. It probably doesn't even know who he is. So it's quite clear that it's the club going to them and saying, yeah, Pellegrini don't want anymore. So then all the fans don't turn on the ball when we don't sign anymore. Well, the manager's happy. If we back the manager, you know, we can't kick up, or we kick off against the manager. We saw this sort of stuff when Slav was in charge as well. All of these stories that will come out, yeah, Slav was happy with this, or he didn't want to sign that player. That he actually came out, that because that was pushed out, that Bilic was offered. Do you remember when it was said Bilic was offered all of these defensive midfielders, but he didn't want to sign them. He only wanted, he wasn't interested in them. Like, we had the chance to sign all these quality ones, and he said nah. And then he came out and said, well, no, that's not the truth. He actually said and called him out on their lies and said, my target was Cavallo. I wanted to say, let's see if we can get Cavallo first. If we can't get Cavallo, then yeah, let's look at these other targets. Let's try and get our first target. So he actually called them out on their bullshit. And now that's being done again. And we're supposed to believe that Pellegrini is seriously gone, yeah, that's it. And some people are trying to put in interviews where he's talking about strikers. And he said, yeah, actually, you know, up top, if we don't get any more, I'm happy, because we've got Chicharito, we've got Aller, we've got Antonio who can play there, and people are trying to use that as evidence that he's happy with what he's got. He's still talking about strikers. Look, if we don't sign any more strikers, if we keep Antonio, and he's much more effective as a winger, but if he was third choice, then that's fine, and focus. I'd rather not sign any more strikers and sort our bloody defence out.
You see, that's the problem, mate. Is that what he said has been misinterpreted? Because what he said is we can't have any more attacking options go. The rest of the positions we will see.
Yeah,
and that people have interpreted that as him being happy with this. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can't reinforce with something, you know, like for example, if you go out and buy a new Blu-ray player, for example, and you want to spend 350 quid on it, but you can only but the only ones that match what you want to have cost £400 or £500, then you're going to be happy. You're going to have to be happy with the one that you buy for 350 quid. That's how I'm interpreting that. Is that the fact that he's got to be happy with what he's got, because let's face it, he can't get much more than what he's already got, and that is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I did want us to sign Aller and I'm pronouncing it right now. You've sorted it out. It's in my head. Aller and another striker, you know, like a Malpay or whatever. But in light of the way things stand, I would just be happy to say, right, let's not focus anymore on attack. I don't want to see any attacking midfielders. I don't want to see any strikers coming. I don't want to see any wingers coming. Let's just sort out the defence and get that to where the best we can get it to. Let's get in a left back. Let's get in a bloody, maybe if we can get in a centre back, let's get in a centre back or a right back or whatever, or defensive midfielder, yeah, left back. Let's just make sure that we are defensively solid. If we can improve on that, then you know we're good to go. I want to see energetic defenders who can close players down quickly and press and put the attacking players under pressure. That's what we need to have. And like I said, you're only as good as your weakest link, and defense is a massive problem. We can't just rely on us outscoring the opposition every time. Like, they score 1, we score 2. They score 2, we score 3. You know,
we're not that good. Yeah, we're not that good enough to have that Liverpool way of thinking. It's just,
yeah.
I know a lot of people have been saying it, and I get the reasons why people are thinking that, but we are nowhere near good enough for that yet, and that's what, 3-4 years away, maybe.
Yeah, Pellegrini would be an absolute idiot if he went in and went, well, we've added Fornals and Aller. They're 2 really good attacking players. Now our attacking stuff is going to be even stronger, and we're just going to outscore everyone. He'd be an idiot if he didn't think that we needed to address our defensive issues, because there's been no changes to the defense like this season since last season. We saw all of the stuff we saw. Like, Diop isn't perfect. And neither is, but people think that they're perfect. I'm not saying that we need to then go and replace it, but we need options, and we need maybe to have an option. Say against the big boys, you can play Rice and another strong defensive midfielder if need be, or you know, just to have different options against different types of teams, because you know the Man Cities and the flipping Liverpools and Arsenal, where they're just going to come and attack you. And I just want us to have these options and have enough depth to go in the cups to where we're not getting battered by bloody AFC Wimbledon again.
Exactly. I mean, what I'll do, Dan, is when we finish this, mate, is I'm going to change the title because we're not going to get round to the main purpose of it by the looks of it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, mate, this is I might actually change it. John talks to ranting Dan from West Ham Fan TV, because you're absolutely right, on every shape or form. I mean, you think about it. I mean, there's a very good question that Ben Davis has asked in the chat, and I'll ask it in a minute. But let's say, for argument's sake, right, that we have our standard 6 to 7 injuries per week. How are we going to be able to, say for example, Elia, he plays perfectly well, and then all of a sudden he gets a hamstring injury, so he's out for a few weeks. That means we're reliant on Hernandez, and unless he's sold, Hugill, Antonio, and possibly even Fornals as the centre forward. That doesn't really fill me with confidence. So, as I say, this is why I can't see how Pellegrini can be happy or with what he's got. I mean, as I said earlier, there's no way he's going to have to accept what he's got. I mean, I really feel sorry for Zande Silva, what he's been going through over the last 6 to 8 months now. With he had a death in the family. He's been seriously ill. He's been in and out of hospital quite a few times. But let's not forget that Zande Silva was actually, his natural position is more of an attacking midfielder than an out-and-out striker or centre forward, depending on your point of view. And so there was a lot of pressure put on his shoulders purely from the fan base, because the original plan was when he came through was to be developing the under 21s under 23s for a season or so, and then look to see if he's good enough to push on to the senior squad. Now, of course, we all know that he was scoring hat tricks left, right, and centre, and before he got his first injury, and therefore that's why he was bumped up to play in the Birmingham game in the FA Cup. But it's just it worries me that we're going to be in the same situation that we were 2 seasons ago. But at the same point, I would going back to what you were saying earlier about the Leicester defender, Harry Maguire. I've said it on numerous occasions that 80 million or 85 million is a hands-off price tag. They don't want to sell him, so they, like with Callum Wilson when he was like 70, 80 million in January, because they don't want to sell him.
Yeah.
And people seem to think that now, there's a lot of conversation going around still, that people seem to think that because that's how much he's worth. He's not worth it. That's how much they want. That's two completely different things, and people don't seem to be able to grasp that fact. It's like for example, the same thing that just right. So because he spends 10 million more, he's cost 10 million more than Van Dijk. Does it mean that he's 10 times better than him? Absolutely not.
No, they can ask for whatever the bloody hell they want. They can ask for 500 million if they want. It's just you will ask for whatever anyone's willing to pay. It's Man United. If they're willing to pay that, then that's on them.
Exactly. Now, the question that Ben Davis asked said, would you take Moreno or Danny Rose? Moreno is a free agent still, I think.
Yeah, why not? I'll take it. I'd take either. I don't. Danny Rose, I can't see. I mean, Danny Rose, I think would want quite high wages. I think that was a bit of his big problem at Spurs, that he wasn't happy with the wages that he was getting. So I can't remember sure what he was being paid there, but I don't know how much he'd want in terms of wages and how much he's actually worth in terms of wages. I mean, he's an England international, but if he's wanting like silly money, then it's just not worth it, to be honest. So I'd see what he wants in terms of wages.
Danny Rose is a very, very good player, but I can't see him fitting under the Pellegrini way, though. I just there's something about it that I just Moreno 50-50 about. Gary Page is saying we haven't got any more money. Hello, Gary. You want to watch the replay of this, mate, because we actually touched on the fact that it is there. It's just the books aren't balancing up properly. So go when the stream's over, go and watch it back, and then obviously put your comments in the comments down below, mate, on the replay, because I'd like to see what your thoughts are on it.
Wanyama as well was linked with as well was another weird one.
Now, I've been thinking about this the last few days. I wouldn't be happy to see him come in, but I wouldn't be disappointed at the same point, if that makes any sense. I'm not entirely sure what
Well,
options he can offer. I mean, Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, my thoughts start. I mean, they were talking about 20 odd million. I mean, if we're to believe we've got no more money left, it's definitely not happening because it's talking about 20 million. But he's far too injury prone. It's too big a risk because of his injury record. So I just don't think we can afford to take a chance on. It's like the same with when Will's linked with Wilson. There's no point taking a chance of players with big injury records. We just got rid of Andy Carroll. So I wouldn't want to be bringing any more players in with injury concerns.
Yeah, agreed 100%. I mean, I know that X did say that we'd be looking at possibly bringing in more frees or actual loans. I don't know where this rumours came out to say the contrary. He said it on the radio show on Wednesday, Wednesday night, and he said it a few times over Twitter over the last few days. But it's from that point of view, it's turning into quite a usual sort of West Ham window. But at the same point, as we touched on earlier, mate, I don't want us to go and spend, if we had the money available again and we went and spent 50, 60 million quid on, I don't know, Ake, for example, a centre back that I really, really rate, I would still say we're spending way too much money because, again, it's a hands-off price tag. But that's the problem, is the fact we're not going to get anybody in now, and unless an absolute miracle happens. I mean, even if Hugill and Obiang are sold, that's what, 12 million, 13 million.
But they're talking about us paying Hugill to leave, like 2.5 million. I mean, it baffles me, that whole deal. And I mean, a lot of people are sort of I've been having arguments with people who have been defending the purchase of Hugill. I'm sorry, whichever way you look at it, that's dodgy. That's dodgy. If his Moyes' brother's the agent, it's his old club, and he goes and pays 9 million for a striker that scored 10 goals in the Championship all season, and I think he's got a record of like 1 goal in 5 games in the Championship and League One, and that might be me being generous. So that has dodgy just written all over it. Makes no sense. And now look, we're having to pay the geezer just to leave the club. That's not right.
Yeah, I know, but again, that's how badly we want to get him off the books at the same point. Yeah. Because from what I was reading, is the fact that they were happy to accept the bid from, was it Wigan, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
And then, like, for someone, get 9 million from them, and then pay, like you say, the 2.5 million to Hugill to subsidise his wages for a couple of seasons.
But not only did we pay 9-10 million for him, we put him on 35 grand a week wages.
And nobody's offering more than 17, 18.
Yeah, which is mad, and this is more than what Byron was on. Apparently he was on 25 grand. I mean, but yeah, that's astounding. 35 grand, right? A week wages. I mean, geez. And then what was Rice? I think that was before Rice done his got his new contract, wasn't he? So Rice must have been on like 10 grand at that time.
Where are we? Not that far off it, mate, if I remember correctly, because he was on about what. I know there was talk at one point that he was on 20, but I think that was one of the deals that was pushed through originally.
That was pushed, because I remember him being on less than Oxford, and Oxford was on 20. So Rice would have been on incredibly low money, and then in comes bloody Hugill, right? He's just wants to walk out of the bubbles, and he's on probably over triple the money of a Declan Rice. I mean, it baffles me. That's got to be one of the worst deals that we've ever done.
There's a very, very good question from Lawrence in the chat here, and it's actually people are getting in quite a good conversation about it as well. It says, as Sanchez is underplaying, maybe try Snodgrass in a defensive midfield role.
Maybe. I mean, to me, he's just a bit more of I wouldn't want to rely on him too much for defensive duties, just because of he's not that quick, is he? So if you did need to get back and do defensive duty, he's quite good in terms of going forward. I say quite good; he's not amazing, but I guess if needs must, it'd be something I'd try out in pre-season. Something I'd like to have a look at in pre-season.
Definitely. I mean, I agree with Dan 100%. He's not quick enough for it. He's got the mind for it, the same way that Zabaleta's got the mind for being a defender. But one thing I don't want to see next season is Zabaleta as a wing back. We tried that yesterday. It didn't work. It's not, his pace isn't. The problem is with me is that I don't agree with when there's formations to match the other team's formation. Like for example, Newcastle played a 3-5-2 yesterday. We tried a 3-5-2 into a 4-5-1, and then a 4. It was. I personally, I want to. If there's 3 centre backs there, then I want to see a 4-4-2 to exploit those gaps. But it seems to be a lot of, not just Pellegrini, loads of managers, not just West Ham managers across the board, all seem to go, right, he's playing a 4-5-1. I'm going to play a 4-5-1. Why? Just exploit the holes. That's the whole point of it. Now, talking about pre-season, obviously, because we've got Fulham coming up next Saturday. Are you going to it first and foremost?
I've still got to buy my ticket. I just don't. I've got to find someone to go with.
Well, mate, I've already got a ticket. So if you're going to purchase, mate, well, it'd be great to come along with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll look. Yeah, I think tickets are still available. So last time I checked a couple of days ago, I just didn't get round to the checkout stage. So I probably will. I've got to get my Bilbao ticket as well. Is it Bilbao we're playing? Yeah.
The Saturday afterwards. I mean, that's one thing that I quite like, is the fact that we've got 2 London friendlies before the season starts. So basically, it's going to be nice to get that momentum up, and because it's not just for the players that need to get themselves back and ready. We need to start absorbing ourselves into the atmosphere as well, for that matter, and getting ourselves ready for the pre-season. So there's the coming season, and what better way to do that is to go and watch us lose to a Championship club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're never good in pre-season, except they say we're the season before Avon Grant's first season when we got relegated. So that was, if we start winning them all, let's get worried. So we got those games. We're good. Hopefully we can see Allaire and we can see Fornals. But
I mean, it's pretty much odds on, mate, that they're going to make their debuts on those games. Fornals is definitely confirmed. If we don't see Allaire at Fulham, then there's odds on that he's going to make his debut on the Wednesday against the Berlin side.
Yeah, so fingers crossed. But yeah, I think all of this news that's coming out, I will just have to wait and see with the budgets and the transfer. I'd always take all of this stuff that comes out that's reported with a grain of salt. You can't take it as first-hand information, because it's probably like third or fourth-hand information that you're getting. I mean, it could be completely true, but I'm not gonna put my energy into. I'm not going to act as if it's 100% true. So I'll give my opinion based on the news, but we'll see. Once the deadline day closes, then we'll know what's what.
Definitely, mate. There's a very good conversation between Ben and Gary in the chat at the moment about Lanzini and him not signing his new contract. Are you concerned about this?
I mean, I think there was a report saying he was waiting to see what happens or what we do in the window or who comes in or something like that. But I mean, it's his last year. I'd be concerned if he did go for free. So it'd be good, even if you'd say, right, Lanzini isn't the player that we thought he would be, and he's not as good as we wanted him to be, or we'd hoped. He's inconsistent. You still want to try and tie him down, because then if we do need to sell him, we get a decent bit of money for him. So yeah, I think the club will get him to sign. I think they will get him to sign. I'm not concerned at the moment, so we'll just have to wait and see. But the thing is, I don't want to stick him on ludicrous wages, because then if he does have a really crap season, we want to get rid of him. Then we'll have an hard time, because Fornals might come in and it will just be like Fornals, Anderson, and like Yarmolenko or something. He might not even get a look in. So yeah, we'll see.
You see, for me, my gut instinct on this is exactly the same thing as what was going on with Declan Rice's contract this time last year. I said all through those weeks it was kept coming up that it's going to get sorted out, and I reckon it's going to be the same thing with Lanzini, because it's been apparently the plan for Fornals coming in was to play alongside Lanzini. So if that is true, then I can't see us not resolving his contract issue. I really, really can't.
Yeah, I tell you what, if he gets another serious injury, I bet you'll be begging to sign that contract. So he needs to watch himself. Really, his injury record is not too great.
It's not brilliant, but to be honest with you, mate, none of our midfielders that we've bought, none of our midfielders that haven't come through the academy, I should say, is a bad injury history. Unfortunately, I mean, how many times since where are we? Over the last 12 years, 13 years now, when Noble broke through properly, how many times was he injured?
Mm.
You know, and likewise with Rice. All right, yeah, he had a little bit of a sniffle in January, but you know that was it. Now that's always been my argument, is the fact that the reason why we've got injury problems is because we're buying injury-prone players.
Yeah. Although I don't know what Lanzini's injury history was before we signed him. Really, I don't remember seeing anything about him having a substantial injury record before we signed him. But it's funny, actually, you mentioned Noble. That's another one. I think he's looked pretty good in pre-season. Noble.
Noble's playing like it's February.
Yeah,
that's what I'm absolutely loving. It's like the season hasn't stopped, and likewise with Wilshere as well. Which you touched on earlier. Those two look like they've. I mean, Wilshere's clearly stepped his game up to get himself back to professional levels and stuff. And then, as I say, Noble has just been he's been outstanding so far these last week.
I don't understand. He still gets this criticism. He's still got this portion of the fan base that just really don't like him as a player, that really don't rate him at all. And like, you know, I've seen people saying he's not good enough. He's not good enough. He's not good enough for what? He's not good enough to be a squad player at West Ham United. Like, if you look at it, you know, we've got Wilshere and you've got Snodgrass, play a bit forward, you know, and we've got all these options depending on different formations. But no one's saying that Noble should be the first choice week in, week out, but he should have the option to fight for it. And because when Noble's good, he is very good. It's just he lacks pace, is obviously the only thing you'd say against him. But some of his balls that he plays in his passes are just unbelievable.
Mate, I agree 100%. I'll come on to that in just a second. But the problem, I mean, I've criticised Noble when it's needed to be criticised, and I've absolutely praised and lauded him when it's deserved. Because at the end of the day, it seems to be, for lack of a better way of putting it seems to be the status quo to criticise Noble no matter what's happening. Yeah. Noble can play one of the best balls you'll ever see. Like, for example, that ball he did to Anderson in the training video that came out last week or the week before last, and also that brilliant ball that he gave over to Antonio, who was massively offside for that second goal, to be fair. But that ball that he glanced right across to Antonio when we were out in playing that Austrian team. People just completely forget the fact that he does that. Yet, for example, if he gets on the ball and does his Parker-esque pirouette, people jump on him. But that's not always a bad thing, because at the end of the day, you can only play the ball to someone you know that's going to be able to connect with you. And if he has to spin around and play it sideways or play it backwards, so what? Everybody else does it.
That's what I like about Noble is he focuses on keeping possession. He really is a player that will keep possession. And I saw a few times, right, where he was having a Newcastle player close him down, or he was getting tackled, and he straight away. So if he lost the ball, he'd win it straight back. He did not want to lose that ball for anything. He would do everything in his power to keep possession of the ball, which I think is really important. I need some quality stuff I see yesterday from him. So yeah, I think it's key, because that's one of the first things you want to do is you want to keep the ball. If you've got the ball, they can't score, obviously.
Yeah, exactly right. Ben Davies has made a very good point, and that is that he will be missed when he's gone. Definitely, 100%. Ray Salisbury saying, regardless of whose fault it is, the fact remains we will still concede plenty playing the same players and playing the same way. I think we should get where's the other bit? And I personally don't see that changing. Metal in both legs has come out with a brilliant one. There's always a joker in there. Said I think we should get Bale on loan. If you think we can subsidise his £300,000 a week, then go for it.
Yeah, and knowing us, he'd be injured. I think he's got an injury record that's not too shabby.
He does actually, mate. Yeah, he does.
So yeah, I think that comment about playing the same way, I sort of agree with that, in a sense of, you know, if we do bring in other players, if we keep doing this thing where we just sit back and give the attacking team space and time, like, we're going to concede goals every single time. Like we see it in Newcastle game yesterday. We've seen it time and time again. Teams press us when we've got the ball, and when they've got the ball, we sit off them. I don't understand. Like Shelvey was given just so much space and time to be able to just play how he wanted to play, do what he wanted to do, and yeah, it baffles me. So yeah, I agree with that. We need to change. We need to get the players in, and we need to have more energy in when we're in defence or when we ain't got the ball.
My final thoughts on the Asia Cup trophy thing was, I honestly think that Pellegrini told them don't do too much because we don't want to get any more injuries.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it'd be disastrous if we end up getting an injury in pre-season. So of course we got to judge them when the season starts. But when the season starts, I want to see some serious energy levels, and I want to see the team, every single player busting a gut, closing people down. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be looking out for, because that's what I thought. Like when I see that last season, I was thinking maybe Pellegrini just doesn't have the players with that energy who can close players down, press. So I don't know, like that needs to be addressed one way or another before the season starts, and I want to see us pressing.
Yeah, because that comes out very well with what Fremer is saying in the group chat, and he's saying, well, we have to find out why we are conceding so much before we can do something about it. That's absolutely 100%. Now, again, this is the problem that we have, where we had the same problem under Allardyce, we had the same problem under even back at Redknapp. There's something about the West Ham way of just conceding goals left, right, and centre. Now,
we get done on the counter attack really easy. We're very susceptible to the counter attack. It's like we don't have a plan for if we lose possession high up the pitch. And this is the thing where Pellegrini's paid millions and millions of pounds, right? And he watches this team closely and studies them, analyses them with them in training. I would hope that he has been finding out, and he has found out, why we concede so many goals after a year of managing us. I would hope he's found out. So fingers crossed going into this. I mean, we obviously did it against City in the Asia Cup. We conceded 4, but again, it's a pre-season, so I'm hoping.
And Man City. I mean, they did the treble last season, so
yeah, they can score past the best team. So even though it was kind of even they're not first team, but it just shows the quality they've got all throughout their academy and their squad. But yeah, I would hope that he's found out by now. This is the reason why, and this is how we're going to solve it. If he hasn't, bloody hell.
Well, the Man City game, I'll come on to. We'll talk about it in just a second, Dan. But with the Man City game, it made me laugh that when we put on our lesser players, shall we say, no disrespect to them, City were bringing out their guns, and how we didn't concede more than 4, I'll never know. But it was purely. We were brilliant not brilliant, but for West Ham levels, we were brilliant in the first half because we had our best players out there.
Yeah.
Second half, it was just all completely.
It's true, you can't judge it, because when you're making that many changes, and we made a lot of changes all throughout, you're not having that. You're getting that consistency and that team bonding over the course of the match and that link up. So with all it is so hard to judge these pre-season friendlies, because in a regular match, we wouldn't have made any substitutions until probably the 60th minute, most likely. So you'd have had a team playing together all through that time, would have kept the same team. So that's another reason why it's so hard to judge. But I think Pellegrini this season, he's had a year now, and a lot of people rightly you give a manager a chance, a year's grace to come in and he done a good job in his first year. We got a top 10 finish with all the injuries that he had to deal with, with new style of football implementing, and he got us top 10. However, this season there'll be a bit more scrutiny because he has had that year's grace. So if it all goes completely pear-shaped, there'll be a little bit less patience, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%, mate. And I'm warning everybody now. There's probably going to come a few rants coming up in over the 40 odd games that we've got to play coming up in the season. So prepare yourselves, guys. But from going back from what you're saying just then, Dan, my counter argument about training is I agree with you 100%. He should have identified the thing. The problem is that when they go through training, as good as they've been doing those double and triple training shifts at the minute, Pellegrini is only putting them through the paces that he wants to see how they react to. Whereas when you're coming up against a game, you're coming up against so many other factors in it that the Pellegrini would, even as a good professional manager as he is, wouldn't have seen in training, because you can only learn from the games itself. I mean, like for example, you take it back to the Allardyce days where it was well known that the boys were drilled for defending, and defending in general, and defending on set pieces, being in the right places for free kicks, etc., etc. And you could see some of that sometimes. Like for example, what was it? Valencia's goal against Watford, I think. Just completely, that absolute shocker. We all thought, fucking hell, we can actually play football.
Yeah.
But whereas in other moments, there are certain things that go on that aren't trained, because you don't know that there's so many culpable things, different things that people can do, where you can't actually preempt. Right. Well, like for example, Leicester are going to defend their goals this way, and they're going to attack their goals this way. They will to a degree, but they'll also improvise at the same point. And that's the problem that our players seem to have, is there's that lack of improvisation on the pitch.
But then at the same time, he's managed how many? It's got to be close to 50 competitive games for West Ham. However, we played last season around the 50 game mark of competitive games. So you've had that much time on the touchline, not only seeing them in real time, but I would hope that he studies the games back afterwards and gets the tapes or whatever it is, the recordings, and watches the games back closely. So he's had enough time to see us to say, right, okay, so this is where that went wrong. This is where this went wrong. So when we're attacking, when we lose possession, maybe our centre backs are too high up the field, or maybe their positioning's not right while we're attacking, and this one should be here. So he's had all of that time to look game after game why we are so weak defensively.
I agree 100%, mate. But I just can't see it getting resolved, because I say, we've had that defensive problem since, well, basically I was born, really. It was just weird. I mean, Ryan did make me laugh with his tweet, I think it was yesterday, where loads of people were saying, West Ham finished fourth in the Asia Trophy, and he retweeted it saying, does that mean we get a Champions League place?
Yeah. If only. It's I can't believe we couldn't even come bloody third in the Asia Cup. I mean, we're always terrible at these Mickey Mouse Cups. We won the Betway last year, didn't we? That's probably more as good as we can hope for. But yeah, it's one of the. I mean, look, what we do like is that he's a manager that plays attacking football. That's what we want. We want attacking football. So you might leak a few more goals. We're not asking him to be super defensive, but it's just, let's just tighten up these stupid mistakes and work on those situations. So it's not pining for the Allardyce days of sitting back and parking the bus, but let's just cut out these stupid mistakes.
Definitely, mate. And just one final thing, because it's as football fans, as we all know, 90% of the games are won or lost in midfield, and we've got a better midfield now. So does that mean? But it doesn't seem that way at the moment. So we'll find out in.
If Wilshere stays fit, massive improve, because that's actually a good point. Midfield was a problem, massive problem, and teams would just breeze through our midfield. If we can keep Jack Wilshere fit, I think that'll make a big difference. But and again, if we can get another defensive midfielder in, it gives us options. So, and
Tim from American Hammers, I'm guessing it's him, is put in the chat exactly where we were going. We said, why don't we just wait and see how the season plays out? Last season we couldn't score enough. We bolstered our attack in the window. Maybe Pele feels a better attack is the best defense. And yes, agreed 100%. That's exactly what I was saying. We need to wait and see until around about October, November time to see how everything's going, because at the end of the day, it took us up until the third or fourth game Pellegrini's tactics to actually start being gelled in. Now, obviously, let's face it, we've only made 2 additions to the squad, because I can't see Roberto having a decent run out, and I certainly can't see Martin Allen, little boy David Allen, having anything to do with the club in any shape or form next season, unless, touch wood, unless that we have Fabianski doesn't get injured. That's the only time we'll see those 2.
It shouldn't take nearly enough time, like you said, because we had so much more players to gel. Like in those early games, I think like 8 players out of the whole 11 were new signings. I think it was like 8 or 9 were new signings in like against Arsenal and those other teams. So now we're only adding 2 players. So as a team, most of them, they should already be adapted to Pellegrini's way of thinking, any style of play. So it should be a bit quicker. However, completely. Once Fornals and Allaire are both in the squad playing, then we'll get an idea of what's what. We need to see how they do. But I still believe that we don't want to rely on just outscoring the team, because if we do lose the ball and then we just get countered up the other end, it's just way too easy. So we need some tactics for that. We need a mindset of, okay, here's what we're going to do if we lose the ball and they're a counter-attacking team. Let's set out a strategy. We'll see. That's all we can say, really. At the end of the day, we can, talk about all this stuff all we want and imagine scenarios, but at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for the best.
Before we wrap things up here, Dan, is there anything else that you want to talk about that's happened over the last week or so?
I mean, it's mostly just been the pre-season, isn't it? And the transfer stuff. I think we've covered that in quite a lot of depth. I can't think of anything else that's sort of going on. I mean, transfer speculation's been sort of completely shut down now with this apparent being done stuff. So we just need to see if those same people that are reporting that we're done in the transfer window are then going to be posting transfer stories. Let's see. That's all I can think of, mate.
Right, yeah, because where are we? Because we've got 2.5 weeks basically before the window shuts. Because it's the 6th or 7th of August, if I remember it closes. Because it's literally a couple of days before the first game of the season. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again, mate. I'm glad you were able to come on for this. I'm going to have words with the other guy. But it's been absolutely brilliant, mate. Pleasure to talk to you as always. Guys, if you're new around here and you like what you're doing, what I'm doing even, then by all means, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so we can try and get to the 900 figure of subscribers before the start of the season. So we've got 2 and a bit weeks for that to happen. If you're watching the replay, put your comments in the comment section below. If you like the video, then by all means, click the like button. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Hopefully, if all things go well, the first proper vlog for the channel, which I'm going to be doing for the Fulham game. So that would be interesting. In the meantime, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon.